Welcome. I'm Juan Rivero, Director of East Village and Special Projects at Village Preservation, and we are very glad you're all here with us tonight. I'm going to start by saying a quick word about Village Preservation before we start with our program. We have been documenting, celebrating, and fighting for the preservation of Greenwich Village, the East Village, and NoHo since 1980. We work to expand and extend landmark and zoning protections and to stop inappropriate development while also encouraging appropriate development in our neighborhoods. We host roughly 75 programs a year, most of which are free and open to the public. Our events are meant to illuminate the cultural and architectural heritage, the history, the depth of our communities, and the value of preservation. We are a nonprofit membership-based organization, so your involvement and support mean a great deal to us. To learn more, you can go to our website, villagepreservation.org, and please consider becoming a member or making a donation if you're able to at villagepreservation.org/donate, and my colleague Hugh will drop that link in the chat. Speaking of which, a quick word about Zoom protocol. During the program, I will be sometimes visible, sometimes not. So will my colleague Hugh. Please feel free to use the chat to say hi, tell us where you're joining from, or to raise any issues you might be having or thoughts. If you have questions for our speakers specifically, please use the Q&A function instead, because that helps us keep track of them. You can do that at any point during the talk, and we'll get to as many of those as we can following the screening and following the talk. We're here to watch a wonderful short documentary, 34 Carmine Street, about the many contributions and struggles of independent small businesses in the city, a theme that the documentary handles through the story of a much cherished Greenwich Village institution, the unoppressive, non-imperialist bargain books at 34 Carmine Street. This short film, which was shot in one day, explores the life of Jim Drugas as a bookstore owner and as the animating spirit for a place that captures a long-standing but endangered dimension of Greenwich Village culture. And I am especially excited about this event because we at Village Preservation feel that small businesses make an indispensable contribution to the vitality of neighborhoods, and that beyond their commercial and service function, they also play a crucial role in its political, social, and cultural life. We, in fact, run several programs that are devoted to promoting small businesses and have, in fact, honored gyms in the past. We also conduct research into the challenges that small businesses face, advocate on behalf of policy that assists them, and when all else fails, we lead public pressure campaigns to support businesses that are at risk of displacement. And we'll be joined today by the filmmaker, Beatrice Brown, by Jim Drugas, the owner of the bookstore, and by producer Cyrus Stowe. We're gonna first show a screening of the video, then we're going to have a quick, I'm gonna introduce everyone, we're gonna have a short conversation, and then we're gonna open it up to questions from the public. So without further ado, Cyrus, if you could say a few words to get us going with the documentary.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. It's such a pleasure to be screening with you guys, and all the wonderful work you do. We're just so grateful. Yeah, this has been a project that's very, very near and dear to our hearts, just like Jim is to us and to so many people across New York City and the world, really, because it's a store, and you'll see that is, you know, very personal to everyone who lives in that neighborhood, but people who visit from all across the world know Jim and always come back to Jim. And there's a reason for that. And I hope that our film captures a little bit of that magic that I think is inside the shop. And if you haven't been to the shop, I highly recommend going by and showing your love and support for Jim and the store. And there's really just a terrific sense of community. And I think that's what this film is about also. At the end of the day, is just this really wonderful community that has been cultivated by Jim and other people in the village for so many years. And, you know, something that you guys are clearly well aware of too. So That's fantastic. And yeah, our wonderful director, Beatrice Brown, is used to live above the shop. So everything about this story is local and authentic to what we try to capture and preserve about the neighborhood. And yeah, so happy to have everyone here. And we just, we love Jim so much, and we hope that this store can carry on for many, many years to come. And we're excited for what the future holds.
Thanks a lot, Cyrus.
On that, enjoy the film.
Hugh, are we ready to roll?
Hi, we're ready to share the video.
The village in particular was always a stomping ground for people from all over the globe.
Gerald Ford told New York to drop dead famously in the spring of 1975, and people thought there would be no New York in 10 years. They thought grass would be growing up on the sidewalks.
But I'm the legend. My name is Jim. Nice to meet you. Robin?
The fact that he's still there is a miracle, because you look at all the really cool stores that have been just driven out, but rents.
We're hard to blame for making the street so fucking hot.
You have to resist.
We have to resist.
Resistance revolution.
Right on.
And as long as he can keep that storefront, Greenwich Village lives.
So let us now welcome Jim, Beatrice, and Cyrus. I'm going to introduce everyone, and then we're gonna talk for a little bit, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Beatrice Brown is a Webby Award-winning producer and director specializing in nonfiction storytelling. She has worked extensively creating documentary-style content for clients such as Google, Peerspace, the New York Times, CNN, Square, and Fatherly. And she has directed and produced 34 Carmine Street, a film she has been working on for 3 years. Jim Drugas has been curating the shelves at his Greenwich Village bookstore with affordable and well-selected reads for over 40 years. The store's noble goal is helping customers build up their libraries without breaking the bank. The store has an impressive collection of poetry, travel, film, art, politics, health, Eastern philosophy, children's books, and more. And notably, Non-Oppressive also features a section with 35 books by or about Bob Dylan. Jim, how does that compare to the number of studio albums by Bob Dylan? Do you know?
Actually, it's pretty small. I mean, there's about 1,000 books about Bob Dylan in existence, literally. I mean, no exaggeration, but we always getting new ones, and
Yeah.
we have at least 35 at any given moment. Hi, Beatrice.
So, and lastly, let me introduce Cyrus, who we met briefly a bit earlier before we introduced the documentary. Cyrus Stowe is a Brooklyn-based Iranian-American filmmaker raised in Dallas. He was recently the colorist on the new black and white release of Johnny Mnemonic, which debuted at the 2021 Tribeca Film Festival, and he is currently in post-production on his debut feature documentary, Take Me to the Sea, produced by BFD Productions. So let me just start it myself. Beatrice, if you could just tell us a little bit about your time on Carmine Street and your connection to Jim and your inspiration for making the film.
Absolutely, and hi everyone, reporting from my car, so apologies about that. But thank you so much for each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this today. It's super special to us and much more special to Jim, and we're very grateful for all of you. To answer your question, yes, I lived on Carmine Street for 2 years. That's how I met Jim. I lived on 34 Carmine Street. My daily commute, I would see Jim sitting outside on that stool where you saw him and Ratso sitting. And you know, the type of person where you feel such an incredible energy come from and you want to just talk to them. and that's what I felt from Jim, and I immediately wanted to get to know him, and we became friends. And it wasn't until I left 34 Carmine Street that we decided, or that I decided I wanted to tell his story.
So the inspiration was Jim and not small business. It was
Correct. Yes. So originally we had an idea to just shoot a very, very short film about the store. And we put together a crew for one day. And our goal was really just to get to know the store and do a mini feature. And we brought all the footage home, took a look at it, and we were like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to it. And this was what's so wonderful about the film. It's we decided to just keep filming and rolling with it. And Jim would say one thing and then the other thing. And we would be like, okay, let's film that. Let's film that. And over time, we started realizing what the story actually was about. And the gist of it is what he created, which is this incredible space sanctuary for artists and for anyone in the village, really.
I understand that it took 3 years for you to do how did it take so long? How come?
Unintentionally. I think Jim refers to this magic that happens in the film a lot. He says it's all part of this magic. And we believe that the time of the film was also magical because it was right when it was supposed, it was finished right when it was supposed to finish. We just kept wanting to learn more. We kept wanting to film more. COVID happened. We didn't even think we were going to capture COVID in the film, but we decided to. And we think that the time allowed to tell the story and do its due diligence and do it justice. So, yeah.
Cyrus, could you talk a little bit about your involvement? How did you become involved in the project?
Yeah, well, like Beatrice said, she was living at 34 Carmine Street, which this comes full circle so well. And we were working together at the time. And she said, hey, there's this great little bookshop that I used to live below, and you have to meet this guy. Let's just go over there one day and shoot and, see what happens. And, just like Beatrice said, it started, it originally, the inception of the story was just our love and our fascination.
I'm sorry, Cyrus, could you speak a little bit closer, speak a little louder? We got a comment that someone cannot hear you.
Yeah, sure. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But as I was saying, it started, like Beatrice was saying, as just almost like a character piece. And then as we got deeper and deeper into the story, we realized how far it could go. And so I feel so lucky and grateful that Beatrice had asked me years ago now to come help out on that day, because it brought us to where we are now. So very grateful to her and Jim and the entire experience I've had on making the film. It's been one of the most satisfying experiences of my creative life. So yeah.
Thank you. Jim, how has movie stardom changed you? Or more generally, could you tell us about your experience with the documentary?
It's been always a delight to work with them. I mean, I'm so thrilled with the first time they showed it to me. They were standing on either side of me by the laptop watching my reaction. It was so cute. And I just was amazingly thrilled and honored to be part of it. And what a great job they did. I mean, it's just astonishing, and I always say now, well, it's not really about celebrityhood or fame. I think it's more like, this is cinema. This is like immortality. I think the next step really is to bring it to, I was saying earlier that, I don't know, HBO, we should make a mini series, I keep saying, or maybe get NASA to stream it into outer space. I mean, it's just such a great little story,
What has been the reaction? This is, I guess, for all of them. What has been the reaction to the documentary?
It's, well, the Quad Cinema did a sold out session for the Greenwich Village Film Festival. They gave us an award right on the spot, and we got to do a Q&A together after that. And the audience response was phenomenal. It was just so, that was really like, I don't remember a larger scale of ego gratification than that. Except maybe when I got the award from the Village Preservation 7 years ago.
That's right.
Make a speech. new school, you know.
2014 Village Preservation Awardee. That is correct. Before I forget, and this is one of the more important things, the more important questions I'm going to ask, if you could please update us about your status with your landlord, because there may be a, public campaign of support coming depending on what is happening.
Well, I'm checking my messages now. My lawyer is actually is supposedly in discussion with the lawyer of the landlord to this afternoon. And we're essentially where we're at with them is that they're saying they may be able to let us stay if we can prove with spreadsheets, et cetera, that we can actually afford to stay. And they're not doubling the rent. They do want a sizable increase, but they don't want me to share with anyone, which is maybe not such a bad thing since none of the subtenants are very forthcoming anyway. And so we did that. We presented this case. Literally, as far as I know, he did it today. I haven't heard back yet, but I asked him to update me if there was anything new. And he's great. I mean, he's been guiding me through this process. At first, they said just a letter to vacate. Then I appealed. I made a little entreaty by email to one of the partners, and he said, "Well, let's let our lawyers talk to each other." So we're at a stage where there's hope. It's not, it's not a sure thing by any means, but but again, there's all this magic throughout 30 years. It's been over and over again with the even much more dire circumstances. We seem to get through it, and I don't know what forces are at play, but somehow I'm cautiously hopeful that somehow we'll pull it off. Or maybe somewhere else will turn up somewhere else in some other, some other place. But ideally, especially now that the film is named after this exact place.
Actually, why did you guys name the film after the address and not the store? Did you have that? Did you consider that potential? The potential of
great question. And Cyrus can chime in here. Cyrus and I were back and forth on that title for months. But for whatever reason, we just kept being drawn back to 34 Carmine Street. And I think that the reason being is because that's the exact physical location of where all of this takes place, right? Where that magic, the fact that the moment you stepped into that store and you have this sensation of just curiosity, happiness, artistic fulfillment, and just excitement, it is about that physical position in those grounds. So we really wanted to make a statement by putting the address in the title.
Wonderful. I mean, that kind of connection to location is something that we're very mindful of, and we celebrate at Village Preservation in a number of ways. And I was hoping, Jim, that you could give us a little bit of like the documentary went a little bit into this, but you've been at Carmine Street for a long time. You've seen a big transformation to the street. The bigger story I think everyone is familiar with, that of hyper gentrification, that of increasing prices and displacement. But I'm wondering how that has affected your life as the owner of a business, and of a particular kind of business that attracts a particular kind of clientele.
Well, yeah, I mean, we when we started out here, I mean, I lived around the corner and back there now, but 30 years ago, we had the smaller part of the building, and it was only $1,000 a month, as I mentioned in this film, and it was a quieter street. I mean, I somehow it's grown with a lot more going on here, and many over the years, but I think, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's I don't know what it is about this street. I mean, there's even, interestingly, Bob Dylan's autobiography, speaking of Bob, Chronicles, Volume 1, which has never been Volume 2'd, is mentions him right early in the first chapter. He talks about walking down Carmine Street in a very prosaic way about how past all these little stores that existed way back in the 60s when he was living in the, hanging around the village. There's just, we literally lived in the building. We used to, at one stage, many years ago, we had the whole ground floor, you know, and had a duplex apartment in the back. My kids grew up here. Originally we created the store. I was exporting books, and we created the store because my wife at the time just wanted to get a job, and I said, let's just do this instead of working elsewhere, getting a job for some other schmuck, you know, and so you know, basically it's literally been, I mean, both of my kids, who are 20 and 27 now, use the store, the story about growing up in a bookstore as their college essay to get into college, which worked very well, you know, in each case. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but you know, I'm just going on about the street is, I think it's always, yeah, it is changing a lot, but then that's like what Rick said, the guitar shop owner, is that the city, the village, it's always changing. There's always going in cycles. What's interesting too is that in the beginning, 30 years ago, the name Unoppressive Non-Imperialist Working Books, I think people didn't get it at first. You know, now post Bernie, post AOC, it's like everybody's like, oh wow, even like fashion models walking in a cluster down the block, they're getting a big kick out of the name. Where, you know, like everybody understands that the whimsical and ideological inference behind that name, you know, in a much bigger way than they did 30 years ago, for example.
Has the difference in the street and difference in your clientele changed your business model or the way you go about surviving in a very challenging retail environment?
Well, of course, the rent has gone up and up and up.
Well, there is, but your client, I'm thinking more about transformation of who your neighbors are, or, you know, the expansion of NYU, for instance, the increasing wealth of
Right.
residents.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors. I mean, firstly, COVID has had a deep effect, of course, obviously, and there's a lot of the fact that a lot of my best customers are not around anymore because they can't afford to live here anymore. You know, we don't really appeal normally to the wealthiest people in the world, and yet they dig it too, often enough. You know, and so how do I change the approach? I mean, I don't try to cater to a different market as such. I'm still putting out things that I think are important, that I think are and that people, especially young people, do relate to very strongly. I try not to taint the store with anything that's not meaningful or worthwhile. And people trust, people who know the store or even just walk in randomly, they get it, that too, very quickly. They realize, like, this is not just a random collection of books. This is like everything here is interesting and worthwhile somehow, you know, and I think I still use that model of, I guess at some point I'm going to have to look for to showcase. I'd love to showcase a publisher, for example, who would help share in the overhead in some way, you know. I've been trying to think of ways to bring in some other product, perhaps, to make it work. Because indeed, it's not going to be easy going forward. In this, and even though we should painting the rosiest picture we can to the landlord, there's no telling how things are going to end up in the next years, even or year. Everything's always changing so rapidly.
Someone asked about how you select your books, and I might add to that how that has changed over the years. Has it changed with an eye towards appealing to to trends among your clientele? Does it change according to your tastes? Both?
Well, I'm always learning new things and finding out about new books that are or authors that are important. We tend to do things in clusters of authors or subjects that get enhanced over time. So, for example, there's a whole shelf unit that's largely books, memoirs, and books about women that I cultivated more in the past few years on a larger scale than usual. There's I don't generally I don't really try to cater to an unknown abstract audience that may or may not walk in. I just try to make it look and feel cozy and find things that you just don't see every day. I don't appeal to the mainstream inevitably. I mean, it's not. There's no point anyway. How do you compete with the mainstream sellers of anything for that matter? They're all over online, etc. So I look for things that you perhaps won't see elsewhere, but not just that, but also somehow feel important, whether it's not just ideologically, culturally, etc. But yeah, I'm always finding new things, and the way I find things so that I can sell for half price is I have a bunch of sources over the years that I used to go to for wholesale export. Now I pick up. It's astonishing that I could get as few as I can only access maybe 50 each of a whole bunch of books, titles by James Baldwin or Kurt Vonnegut or so on, from returns from other bookstores. So one of my sources will actually sort out truckloads of returns. And then I finally learned after all these years, I have to go all the way to the other side of Pennsylvania to get to the books and pick and scoop them off the floor as they're sorting them. Otherwise, someone else is going to get them. It's competitive, to actually source the books. And I'm really good at it though. And then I have people literally calling me and saying, "Whoa, we just got a bunch of Patti Smith books. You're going to want these. I'll hold them for you." And because if I didn't get that call, they would have been gone. And so I'm really fortunate that people are always looking out for us too, in the way of the people we buy from. I just recently opened up a source in England, which is willing to import a lot of things that they have almost infinite supplies of. And one of the things that's important too is that amazingly, people come in here and get a book for half price, and I could sell 50 of a title in a matter of 6 weeks. Whereas if I sold it for full price, I'd only sell 2 or 3, probably, and I think it's remarkable that there's that little extra, incentive that people will pick up something that they just didn't even know they wanted half the time. It's pretty rare that, although it does happen all too often, that synchronistically people walk in asking for a book that just arrived the previous day. It's like that, again, that crazy little magic that occurs over and over again.
Ben Archer says that your source in Western PA is holding 32 copies of Marxist Communist Manifesto for you.
Right, that's one of that's him, yeah, and that's the guy I was just talking about. And the funny part of it too, that exact book, I don't know if it's the Yanis Varoufakis introduction version, which I love. It's wonderful. The most recent thing I read is wonderful. The Greek finance minister, but or the other edition. But I'd be curious to know. But the fact is, when last time I was there, I had 50 boxes loaded in my van, ready to go, and someone just walked up to us. I had just asked, "Do you have any copies of that?" He looked it up online on his computer. There didn't seem to be any in stock. Some gal walked up to us at the very last minute. I was about to leave. If it was 12 seconds later, it would have been too late. Said, "Oh, here's some samples. We have 50 of this and 50 of that." And we looked at each other like, "What? How did that happen?" This is, we just were talking about that in another book that just turned up out of by sheer luck at the last second. That sort of thing happens on so many levels over and over again.
has COVID and not just COVID. I mean, the documentary shows you doing different kinds of programming to attract people in. I'm wondering if that continued. I'm sorry, I'm getting a feedback here. To attract people to your store. I'm wondering if that, I mean, that probably was interrupted by COVID. I'm wondering if that's something that you are still doing, that you're expanding, or that has been an ongoing strategy for competing with other
Which is that? You mean like
talks, talks,
Oh,
concerts, programming in your store? Yeah.
Right. Well, we do have. I mean, I'm going to take screen out here. We do have a lot of all these tables and shelves that are in the middle of the floor have wheels, so we're able to push them back and into the way back, and then we could create these events like the one you saw in the film. Yeah, they're I'm not sure. I mean, we did have something I'd love to get you guys to screen with a reading of Blake's Auguries of Innocence, more than a reading, a performance with several actors, paid actors that were, it was extraordinary. It turned into a nice 10-minute little film. There's, over the years, yeah, we've had a few of those things, but yeah, nowadays it's a little bit more complicated. You have to get vaccination cards and so on in order to do things indoors. We did the last reading I spoke about was something we did on literally outside and inside multiple times in the same night. And that was in connection with the artist who did these tarot cards that we have in the window. And it was, she arranged the whole thing, Amanda, Sorsa. And so then there's, what else? I think we should definitely would do more of those things, but it's right now the future is unknown.
Sure, we have received several questions. This is a question for everyone about the distribution of the documentary, specifically in whose hands have you gotten it? Has the Landlord seen it? Has Bob Dylan seen it? Has Patti Smith seen it? And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we can start. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please. That was, I was gonna.
Yeah, great question. Our goal is to be able to get it in front of as many people as possible. At the moment, we don't have a public link available, but that is very much our goal. I see someone commented PBS. They're very much on our radar. And we are also planning on going to more festivals starting in 2022 once again. And then we will go ahead and do an online release afterwards. Bob and Patty have not seen the film. That being said, if anyone can get it in front of them, I will gladly give them a private link to watch it. We really want to try and push it in front of as many people as possible, like I said.
And the Landlord? Do we know?
Jim, that is your update to give.
Yeah. Well, I actually had received communication back from Patty's daughter saying that they wanted to try to help us somehow. A while ago, I Instagram messaged her. I've been sending messages out. We, of course, you all know Awkwafina, the sensationally popular award-winning actress who used to work right across the street as a teenager at the video store right across from here. And she's an old friend too. I'm asking her to see if she could help us produce a miniseries. Literally. I'm only half joking, but because there's so much more material that could easily be presented.
Jim, make sure you're not blocking the mic. You sound a little bit low.
Oh yeah, I've been running around a little bit. Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions? Let me see if there are any other questions. I think most of these have been answered already. It's a question about your background, the background that led to opening a bookstore. I guess that was covered a little bit in the documentary. If there's anything you want to add to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I always was fascinated with the packaging of ideas in the form of books, and even as a little kid. And I think I wanted to be a bookseller at a very young age, of just always haunting bookstores. You know, I even used to loan books to friends in 6th grade in school. I used to have a lending library that I set up for the class as such, and always collected books too. I don't know. I mean, but I think New Yorkers in general, I think we all have books in our blood. I mean, never mind that the industry has always been largely based here in the US, but I think we're booksellers are also, I think, we're not so competitive with each other, even though we do compete. You know, we seem to be, I always had a very friendly relationship with the Strand, for example, and often supplied books to them as well. Fred Bass got a big kick out of that slogan, 1/8 of a mile of bargain books, that I use on my card.
Famously.
Right.
Let me, a question about several people have asked about, or it has come up a few times about turning this into a series. And I guess you can feel that in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be a series about this particular business. It can be a series about similar businesses, or it can be, you know, you can interpret that however you like. But the possibility of taking this model and using that as a sort of a germ for a larger project.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an honor and a dream. I think that this is a tale as old as time, right? The goal is we need to save our small businesses. And the reason why we were attracted to this story in the first place is because we feel the need and desire for places like the bookstore to be around. And so being able to feature several different small businesses in a series format, with the goals and hopes of raising awareness that that these places help shape culture and help create an environment that is positive and not capitalistic for everyone. I could only hope such opportunity presents itself to us.
And it may. Be in touch with us.
Absolutely.
My colleague Hugh is about to take over for a minute. I'll be right back.
Hey, so we do have a couple questions from the audience. So they do want to know if you have an online presence.
Not that much. Oh, you mean for the film or for the bookstore, or?
Either, both, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you do, right, Chris? You have a website about the film?
We are going to be creating more of an online presence for the film in the next couple of weeks. Jim does have an Instagram account and a couple of social media accounts for the store, right? Is it @unimpressive?
Yes, the unimpressive is the key word. Now, nobody else uses that much.
Yeah,
and,
easy to find.
yeah. I don't really sell books online. It's so hard to compete in that realm. And it's hard enough to get the good ones in sufficient number anyway. And my sources probably prefer that I don't do that, because they do. And so it works out better this way. And we have a blog, of course. We have all the things like Instagram, but you know, I'm open to ideas. Anybody has any thoughts about where we should go further? I'm wide open to ideas too. If anybody in the, how large is our audience right now? Do you have that can you see that?
Hugh?
Yeah, sure. So we're currently at 82, but this is because we're in the Q&A. We previously had about 150 people here, and that's just people logged in. There were people, sharing computers. So we probably had around 200 people. So you've had a wonderful impact tonight, and we're just very grateful for everyone who's joined us.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
As were we. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate your time.
well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been a wonderful screening of a wonderful documentary and a great conversation. And hopefully it will be one that will lead to future collaborations and similar discussions.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a lot of great.
And we'll be in touch, Jim. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.